so much for coming out tonight. Appreciate you being here. This is an opportunity, it's a question and answer session. A chance for us to talk about a bond issue that we're looking at from the district and answer some of the questions that you might all have. Before we get started here, I'm going to just share a couple things about the district, about the bond, and then we're going to open it up and you can ask any questions that you have. We have our panel here. Let me start off with some introductions.
Diane Salter, I'm president of the school board.
Jan Meek, executive director of finance.
John Thompson, the director of operations.
Brian Spilnick from Wakely Associates Architects.
So they're here, they're able to answer any questions that you might have on this topic. But let me just give a little bit of a scope of what we're looking at here. As you've probably read, we're looking at a bond here, 0.83 mil increase on a $200,000 home. That is about $83 a year. This bond would go through the year 2039-40, and it would raise about $20 million that we were able to put into essential projects throughout the district. There's a list of projects out here if you're interested. Primary purposes is building repairs and improvements, and then investing in the future. There's a few things like technology and some things that our kids need. It's also part of this, and this is a March 10th election for the community. So just to give you a scope of what we have as the district, we are different than we were 10, 15 years ago. We have two elementary schools that have junior kindergarten through 5th grade, Harvey Swanson and Oakwood Elementary School. One middle school that's 6th grade through 8th grade. High school is 9th through 12th grade. But we also have a virtual school, a program called an Adult Transition, which is for special education students beyond high school graduation, transitions them into real life. And then we have a robust preschool as well that's also housed at Harvey Swanson Elementary School. We have about 160 preschool students that attend the Brandon School District also. Just to give you a scope of our buildings, and then we'll get to you really quickly here, is Harvey Swanson is the oldest building in the district. It was first opened in 1949. With about 650 students that attend school on that campus. With our H.T. Burt wing is where we have our preschool students. Primary projects that we're looking at Harvey Swanson, this is the biggest spot where we have needs. There's some security upgrades, technology, parking lots need to be redone. The playgrounds are very old. If you were to go to them, they're rusted and they need a lot of attention. Doors, when I say doors, we're only talking about doors that are rusted throughout the district. There's certain ones that are exterior that are rusting away. Those are the ones that you'll see across the district. It's not all doors, it's only doors that are rusted. There's some fencing, roofing that we've had experts that have come out and talked a lot about roofing. We've had leaks and all these different things across the district. So there's going to be roofing projects. Harvey Swanson is part of that. Looking at the main entrance, lockers. The flooring is 70 years old. HVAC, there's HVAC issues. We have a 70-year-old building. There's a lot of issues. Furniture is also extremely old that's in that building. So part of this is that we're looking to modernize the furniture. There's some sound system issues and things like that that we have at Harvey Swanson. But this is our probably the school that's would get the most attention in this bond. Oakwood is our newest school. It was built in 2009. Has about 450 students there. Security technology. If anybody that's been to Oakwood knows that they've got a real parking lot issue there where it's just big holes, things that we've been patching. We need to get that fixed for the long haul. That's the big project there. A little bit with their playground, and again, they've got some doors that have some issues as well. Smaller project than at Harvey Swanson would be at Oakwood. The middle school is about 25 years old. We've got about 550 students at the middle school. Middle school, again, we're looking at parking lots, just like our driveways and things like that. They have to be resurfaced and things. But the lot between the high school and middle school, that needs attention. Parking lots. The only construction in this entire project, the only new construction that's even being discussed is an exterior restroom, which would be right outside of the wall here. We have all of these athletic fields out here, and there's absolutely no place for people to use a restroom. No place. So we put restrooms and things. So we'd like to put a few dollars into putting in a restroom here that they can use when they're using all of these facilities. STEM lab, we have some labs there, but we'd like to do a few things to make it a little bit more user-friendly for our students. There's some real HVAC issues in this building that also need some attention. So those are some of the things at the middle school. At the high school is nearly 40 years old at this point. We have just over 800 students at the high school. This has a variety of things here. Again, security technology, you see that at the beginning of each, that parking lot. The turf that is on the field needs to be replaced. The shelf life for that is 11 years. I believe we're in year 13 on that right now. We're hoping to do that at the end of the bond, but it has to be replaced. It's like carpet. It has to be replaced every once in a while. Track being resurfaced, handicap walkways, roofing, STEM labs, a lot of things here. One is in the Performing Arts Center, which if you've been to our PAC area, it's a beautiful facility there, but when they built it, they didn't put any restrooms in that entire side of the building. So we're suggesting that we take some of the existing plumbing and put in some toilets and restrooms so that we can make that area user-friendly for students. We have community in there, we have dance recitals, in addition to all kinds of things from the school district side on that. So, and then some HVAC things, but those are some of the main projects that we're looking at across the district. Again, this is March 10th election, and we've already talked about those. There is a website. If you go to our, there's a worksheet there that is out here in front, a flyer, that has our website on it, and it has all kinds of information on it, from details in the bond to how the calculations go, what the projects are. There's an FAQ section where we put frequently asked questions. So let's say that 2 days from now and you have a question. You can either reach out to me directly, or if you would prefer, there's a link there. You can literally just put the question in. It comes to us and we'll put it right on that FAQ so that everybody in the community can follow along. But there's that website that will help inform everybody and keep you going. So at this point, what I'd like to do is, we're a small enough crowd here. We were prepared. We don't know how many people are going to come. We were prepared for this to be a very large crowd, and this crowd is more of a mid-sized crowd, so we're able to have you maybe ask your questions directly. We have, if you would like, we have some cards that you can submit. There's, you can do this by texting. You can submit questions that way, or we can take some by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the first question. I guess I should say, Candy, can you guys hear me okay, just speaking like this? Yeah. Is that all right? Okay. So I'm going to turn this one over to our architect and our operations director. So here's the question about the improvements and repairs. Do you have individual quotes, estimates for all of the improvements and repairs?
We have estimates right now for all the repairs. That's how we set the budget for it. So those are pretty good estimates, but we really don't know the real numbers until they go out to bid and we get multiple bidders on it. And when they go out to bid, we don't know what the current environment's going to be like, but they should be relatively close, and the budget should be good for the projects that are going out. Brian?
Yeah, the estimates are based upon historical data, for example, parking lots or roofs. So it's done by a square foot calculation, and just with the history of what the recent market is for this type of roof system or this type of parking system. So as John mentioned, when they go out to bid, that will have an influence on the costs as well, as far as the size of the package. If it's a very small project, it may increase the cost because it's not as attractive to a construction person. If it's a larger package, they might sharpen their pencil when they want to get it because it's a larger package. So there's a lot of influences, and when we get into the bond and how we package the projects and put them out to bid, that will help us with controlling the budget.
We've also built in enough contingency in case there were to be, we were too optimistic on the bids, so that there is money there, so the projects will get finished.
Yes, ma'am.
And are these estimates available for us to see?
Yeah.
What's on?
Absolutely, we can do that.
And where is it that we can find it?
We'll put it onto that webpage if that works. If that's a good spot, we can put it right on there.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think we have one and then two. Yep. Yes, sir.
Based on living statistics, many of us in this room will be dead before that bond's paid in 20 years.
Speak for yourself.
We should, well, it's based on statistics, you know. We should never borrow into the future. It's been a disaster in the past. We just sold a couple of schools here for pennies on the dollar. It's grossly insane how cheap they sold. The acreage alone should have been worth much more than what they sold for. And those were very nice buildings. So borrowing into the future, into the point where many of us will be dead, many of the students will no longer even live in the state of Michigan, it's a disaster. If it was maybe a 3 to 5 year plan of repaying it back, but 20 years, that is a long time. Within that 20 years, we're going to hit another recession. After the last recession, the school had to raise the mills quite a bit to help cover the loss because there's no tax base here. It's going to happen again. How are you going to raise that mills again when the market crashes and there's no tax base?
Let the panel.
And we'll probably have a lot less students.
If-
The trend is there's a lot less students going on in all of North Oakland County. The trend is many families are not having 4 or 5 kids like they used to. Most buyers in the area want nothing to do with these 4 and 5 bedroom colonial homes. They want 3 bedroom ranches because they're no longer having these large families.
And what I could say from the board, when we reviewed the list and approved it, it had not to do with, oh, we're going to be in an enlarged school district. The list is compiled of upgrades and repairs that are existing. It's not about making big expansions to any buildings. Like you say, the most expansion that you heard was doing what we would do is out exterior bathrooms that
Right.
are well needed. And those alone are something that you do not, it's for the whole
But
community and it's
financing
rough.
current repairs on a 20-year plan, in 5 and 10 years, there's going to be a lot more repairs needed. The school, like any other business, any other entity, any homeowner, you have to live within your current budget. You can't borrow into the future.
Yep, if we could.
Yeah, in terms of our budget, I'll address that issue, it's my area. The state of Michigan, the only mechanism that the state gives a school district, any school district, is to go out for a voted bond for capital projects. The money that we get from the state is solely enough money to pay our teachers and our utility bills and that type of thing. So we are left with the way the state of Michigan allows districts to fund any type of a capital improvement projects is this way. It really is no other way. We've done some private loans, an IPA and an energy bond to help fill the gap because it's been 15 years since the district has bond money and we've had some needs. So we have done that and we're paying that out, payments out of our general fund. We're tapped out, frankly. There's just
How much
no other-
debt does a school currently have, and what's the time frame of that being paid off?
So the 1996 bond will be paid off in 2026, and that's been refunded 3 times. We've done several refundings the last few years.
How much is still owed?
No, I didn't bring my schedules with me. I can get that to you, certainly I have schedules.
Approximately.
Still owed.
I think
don't know,
maybe
what
get
do I
an
wanna say,
exact
8
number.
million, but I'd rather give you an exact number. I don't want to be, quoted as, but I can send you our schedules. In our audit, we have schedules on our debt schedules for the bond for the 2006 bond.
Sir?
I was wondering about the elementary school, $500,000 for playground equipment, $400,000 for wireless clocks in the school. What the heck is going on? That's $1 million between the two.
The budgets that we put together for the playground equipment right now are just placeholders right now because very large structures that you see, the colorful ones there, those structures alone are $100,000. So we're looking also at doing some under drainage and compaction, new surfacing underneath for play surfacing, for fall ratio, for the Consumer Product Safety Commission. We have issues we have to meet with children if they fall. So we're looking at redoing the base also along with the equipment. So yes, it's a big number, but the playgrounds get very expensive. Very good.
There is no wireless clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a wireless clock
Wireless
in there.
clocks are not part of the bond.
Oh, has that been removed then?
Yes.
Maybe that was in
Yeah.
a discussion a while ago. That was one of the
A couple months
potential.
ago.
Yeah, a couple months ago, just before
Yeah, we
the list
removed
was
that.
approved, so.
So
As a matter
the
of
amount
fact-
of the bond that you're asking for then is lowered as well? Are you asking for the same amount of money?
That was before the bond was finalized. There was a list of things that could go within the 19.5
It'd
million.
be great to know what's in.
So there were
this-
some of those
in
things,
this
so.
money.
Let me give you
Just go on the table. I don't know if you pick it up on the
So-
table.
There's a whole list.
Well, actually, there's a list of projects, but no money listed next to it. Yeah, I've got this all
Right,
right.
there's
sir.
a list.
Money's listed above them. Yeah, but they're not
Is it?
broken out.
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say, I do appreciate the effort that the board has made over the last 5 to 10 years. You guys picked up a terrible situation, and I think you've done a very good job with what you had to work with up to this point. My question is, these things are being presented as necessary and required, which I understand. If my math is correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is why I came, we were at about a 13 mil, which I think is the statutory limit, if I'm correct.
Correct.
And then through some refinancing, we've been able to bring that down a little. This is pretty much going to put us back there, and we're going to have about a 6-year or so overlap in that, with the other bond being paid off and this one. What happens in that 6 years? Do we have any other mechanisms if something else happens that's a costly repair that's required for the schools? Is there another system we can go to find additional funding if necessary? Because unless I'm incorrect, we're kind of tapped out on a bond level. I don't think we can go above the 13
Right,
mils.
there is, of course, always a sinking fund, but that would require voted, and we have not discussed that, but that would be the other mechanism, but that has not been even considered, especially if this bond were to pass.
Has the sewage project been addressed or completed yet?
The answer to that is yes. We did a redesign of the existing system
Okay.
on the recommendation of Highland Treatment, who do several, matter of fact, they do the new subdivision down the street as well. But
Right.
they also have several projects throughout the state, and so they helped us design a new system. It's in process of being approved by the state, by the New Eagle Group, they're called now, not in DEQ. But basically, they have told us that the system is designed and functioning the way they like it to function right now.
So it doesn't need that 1.3 million upgrade?
No,
Great.
no, sir.
Okay.
So we had a question submitted by card here. When will the 2006 bond expire? It's actually the 2005. It was May of 2005 when the community voted on that. And that will expire in
2036,
the 35-36 school year.
the last payment. We paid off.
So there's a bigger one for that.
Well, the 2006 bond will be paid off in 2036.
Gentleman mentioned some schools or some buildings being sold. Could you discuss that? What was sold, how much did we get, and what happened to the money?
We did sell Brandon Fletcher for $750,000, and that was 2 years ago. That was put into a capital projects fund, and we have been fortunate that we did have that to supplement or to use for some of the capital projects the last couple of years.
So that's been
Such as-
used up then?
Such as wastewater treatment, which we were just talking about, such as some of the roofing projects,
Technology
HVAC
upgrades,
issues, all kinds of.
Security.
We've had a lot of
cameras,
things that we were able to check off the list with those dollars.
which definitely helped our general fund. And then we did sell Bel Ann last year, a year and a half ago, for $550,000, and that was on a land contract. So we do not have use of those funds yet. The buyer is required to pay us the balance, the $450,000, I guess we did get $100,000, next December, January.
Is everybody able to hear okay, or would you rather have us use a microphone? It's okay? All right.
Can I ask one quick follow-up then? The 2036 estimated repayment for the 2005-6 bond, does that mean we can expect to be at basically at this 13 mil level as far as the levy until that time?
36.
36?
Yeah,
But
it was a 30-year bond, which is
Yeah.
standard, a
Right,
30-year bond. This
yeah.
is actually 20, or maybe 20 or 30. This
How many
is,
mills is that?
Well, the debt levy total is 12.16 mils.
So that would disappear in 2036?
Yes.
So if this passes, we basically be at
12.99, you're correct.
13.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so my follow-up is am I incorrect in my understanding that 13 is the maximum allowable?
That's the statutory limit.
Okay, so between now and 2036, and again, I understand we had a difficult situation that was created, by the recession and everything. What happens between now and then, like the turf, for example, if it's got an 11-year lifespan, we're going to replace it effectively probably 3 times or 2.5 before we've actually paid off the turf, in essence. What happens if we have to do that again and we can't go to the mill? So are we just into the sinking fund at that point, or are there other options?
Well, I would think if we replace the turf in, like, let's say 2023 or 24,
That's
Dr.
our
Eller said we plan to do it towards the end, we would then be looking at, 12 or 15 years, so you'd be into after 2036. So at that point, there would be an opportunity to do another voted bond. I mean, and that's typical. Districts go out every few years.
Right. But we won't have that option again until 2036, roughly. Unless there's some significant change in the tax base. Am I incorrect?
You just answered the question right there. The tax base, it will not, if it goes down, it cannot go above 13 mils.
Okay.
But going the other way, if the property values were to increase, obviously the tables can shift.
And we can have some numbers worked out, but when we do pay off the 1996 bond in 2026, that perhaps would recalculate the borrowing situation.
Well, as the tax base in Brandon growing, I can
Yes.
get more money.
The taxable values have been going up every year, yes.
They have
What
not
percentage is
exceeded
that?
back at the 06 value though, have they?
Are they back to 06? I think they are, but I can.
Are they up to that?
Yeah, we're well over 600 million.
Am I right that it's been about a 3%? Is it about a 3% growth in the tax base every year for the last several years?
So basically, we're going to put $20 million on the credit card for the school board, right? What's the interest rate that we think we might be able to pay if this bond?
Well, we just got, when we did a refinancing recently, we got like a 2.9%, which was phenomenal, so, and rates
Somewhere in
are.
that range?
Yeah, well, that would be our hope. The estimate was based on a little bit higher, because you want to go conservative, when you're doing an estimate for the, what the potential interest rate would be. But we are hoping it would be around 3%.
Is that a fixed rate?
Yes. When you sell the bonds, it is.
What other questions do you have?
How much is the AstroTurf?
Turf, the estimate is, I
It's
believe,
about a-
600,000, am I correct?
$500,000 to $600,000 to replace that.
How much is grass for the same size?
To go back to grass?
Go back to grass, roll it up, put hydro seed on there.
And upkeep, yearly upkeep costs.
We're in a farming community. I'm sure there's many people in the community who figure out how to grow grass there at a,
Part of the bond is to replace the grass
Fraction.
at the soccer field. We're not doing turf at the soccer field. This is just turf at the stadium. The soccer field is due to get new grass and some under drainage as well as some parts of grass.
So before I came to this district, I was athletic director a long time ago in Grosse Pointe. We put in turf there, and we had people that came in and did an analysis for us. And in 7 years, we had paid off. We were ahead of the game in 7 years on going to turf. So turf, because of the field maintenance, and they get a lot of wear and tear, particularly with football and things like that.
Yeah.
It's I know we had a study that was done on it and it convinced us that it was a cost beneficial thing to use turf. So I've done it in Brandon, but I know that was what we had a few years ago.
Soccer, the grass and drainage at the soccer field is $500,000.
So it's a similar cost for grass.
And then, of course, with the turf, you don't have the watering costs. Then you're spending water to maintain the grass. So one of the advantages of doing the turf is that you have less maintenance on that.
so what if you just shut down the program and no cost?
You could absolutely, obviously do that for sure. Yeah, you could delete your sports program for sure. But
the contact sports. You know, everybody loves football, but there's a lot of evidence out there that's saying the CT brain injury from the concussions, plus the knee injuries and that.
Well, it's widely agreed upon if you.
Probably within the next 5 or 10 years, that's going to be a big issue of whether or not the states, the towns will have football because of that.
So we have a young lady here with a question?
Yeah, so I noticed that when you were talking about the high school, one of the things was the parking lots. And I just had a question. So we pay $50 every year for a parking pass to park in the student parking lot. So if the taxpayer money is going to fixing the parking lots, where's my $50 going?
Actually, your 50, that's a great question. Your $50 helps to pay for, we have a parking lot attendant, and we pay her a salary to drive around and make sure the parking lot is secure. So that helps to offset some of that. It doesn't cover, it doesn't really cover half of it, but it helps to offset some of that.
Okay, I was just wondering.
No,
I'm
it's a great, that's a great question.
Every school district that I know of.
Questions?
I
Sir?
see.
Is there money in there for bus replacement? If so, how much? How many buses?
Eight buses,
Eight buses.
about $1 million. Each bus is a little over $100,000. Our
And-
bus fleet, we bought 15 buses 6 years ago, so 10 years is considered about the average lifespan. For us, it's pushing it a bit because of our roads, and they get beat up a little bit more. So there'll be 7 years, and, you know, so if we did that in a couple of years,
It's about 10 buses, you said?
8 buses
Eight
for $1
buses.
million. Yeah, may come in a little bit under, but the last time I bought buses, they were about $110,000.
Are we going with any gasoline, electric buses? What are you thinking about?
John, can you talk about the different engine, what was
Yeah.
it, international
Yeah.
or some?
You don't have to go into
Yeah.
detail, I'm just wondering
No,
if you're...
Diesel and gas is usually not a good product for the buses because they're...
Diesel?
Yeah.
It's better.
And as far as electric is concerned, the infrastructure we'd have to build to go with electric buses would
Yeah.
cost more than the buses themselves.
That'll be 2036.
Yes, ma'am.
Flying by then.
Okay.
What is the cost for the pool repairs, renovations, whatever you're calling it? And is this really going to solve the issue? We have been throwing money into that pool since the day it was built. And it doesn't ever seem to handle whatever the issue is. We keep saying we've handled it, and then we don't. We keep getting asked for more and more money.
We've never handled the real issue, ever.
Yeah, I had an engineer, we had engineers come out and check the roof. And the roof is going to be structurally fine, so you know that there's no danger as far as the roof falling in on the pool. The engineer said that's not a problem. What is a problem is that the design of the roof caused it to get excessive moisture, and also which caused it to start degrading. So the roof up there is, as far as the texture of the roof, the metal on the roof is starting to degrade, and there's wood underneath the roof that is degrading. That's happening because there's not enough dehumidification inside the pool. The design that was put forth by the previous designers didn't handle the amount of humidity that was in that space. So the new design is to put a Dacron unit in that would take the humidity out, put a new roof, repair the roof, so it would be functional. So that problem will not exist anymore because it was designed by Peter Baskell.
So it's
And,
like $750,000 for dehumidification, another $500,000 for the roof?
Yes.
That's correct.
Those are our estimates.
That
Correct.
include valves and stuff?
There's another bit of money set aside to replace the valves. The valves are old in there, so they need to be replaced. I think that's a $50,000 add for the
Can you shut
valves.
it down, close the doors, and reopen it?
Community
when
has
the school
asked, it's
has
a
money?
community pool, they've asked that it stay open, and it's the community wants that pool.
Are they
If we have
charged
to
to use it
finance
at all?
money 20
I'm
years
sorry.
into the future, it doesn't make financial sense for whether it's a business, a school, a homeowner. Financing something like that in 5 or 10 years, it's going to need another major renovations in that pool area.
I will say that just as my experience with pools, I've been doing this for 40 years, you can't empty a pool and call it a day. and shut down a pool, because then it'll start perking. In other words, it would degrade over time, in a short period of time. because
It's
of
gonna
hypertension.
degrade whether it's full or empty either
Well,
way in
more,
10
more,
years.
more quickly without water in it, it will degrade. And then we'd have to maintain the water in it and then maintain the pool to keep it from going in the worst place. Or, so,
You had a follow-up, right?
Well, I just wonder if we're truly convinced this is the answer because, it's been, 30-some years or whatever, that why suddenly now we have the answer and we haven't for this many years?
So I've only been here for 6 years, and they were talking about this for 10 years before I got here.
Oh, I
It's-
know.
The question, it's always been, you have to fix the dehumidification or you're wasting money on the roof. Fix the dehumidification first, otherwise you can fix the roof and it will be destroyed quickly. So that has been the elephant, the elephant in the room on this conversation. Question is, where's the money gonna come from?
Well, why haven't we addressed it before now, before we allowed the roof to deteriorate? Because now it's costing us twice as much. We've had multiple millages during that 30-year time period, and why hasn't it been addressed?
I don't think any of us can speak to what happened in 2005. None of us were here. So I apologize that we can't explain the thought process on that. I know that when all of us came here, that this was an existing issue, and it's been on the list every year, our to-do list. And it's like, we know we have to do this. And there's been small fixes, but we have not done the big fix yet. So it's just been the elephant in the room that we have to do at some point if we're going to have a aquatic center. What else? Anybody else have questions that they'd like to ask the panel?
Can I have a comment?
Sure.
My son graduated from Brandon High School last year, and I just want, really people to think about, I want my grandkids to have a school district to go to school to and be proud of. I want my kids to be able to swim and play soccer or cheerlead or be in the marching band, and I'm going to support this, and so is my family and all my friends, because we want a Brandon district to have what they need for our children. And for $7 a month, I'm all in. The district, we have to trust that there's a lot of rules about how you can spend bond money and what you can spend it on, and a lot of checks and balances. And we have to trust that these educators here are doing what's best for our kids. And having the pool fixed and football fields and bathrooms brings in revenue, because you can rent out your facilities to soccer, BJB and soccer people and community, they will want to rent our facilities if they're up to standard and they look good and they're usable, and they're, how many people used our football field this year because other people's fields were not usable during the playoffs. So I'm super proud to be a Brandon Blackhawk, and I'm going to be supporting this for my grandkids.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to piggyback on that. We moved into the district 6 years ago because of the culture that Brandon Township has. It is, you go to Beaky's and I can run into you and we will smile because we were at a meeting together. My children know the names of their teachers. They see them, picking up a gallon of milk, or going to Papa Bella's. The community comes together, that real strong feel. We were going to pick Romeo, and I said this 6 years ago. It was Romeo or Brandon. When we came in here, I interviewed both elementary schools. We picked Harvey. Harvey has a special place in our heart. It's the oldest school in our district, and the history behind that is so amazing. And the nice thing is that we keep that history alive. So, being somebody that came from the east side and chose Brandon, I want our schools, I want our community, I want us to be like, we are the best option for northern Oakland County. We want to bring those families that want to raise their kids back to the days of Mayberry, where people know each other and people respect each other and people have that passion, and Brandon and Ortonville has that. So if we are trying to instill in our next generation those key values, we're doing that here in our district, we're doing it here in our community, and being here 6 years, we invested our homestead here, and as she said, I want my grandchildren to come here. We plan on, after my kids graduate, we're staying in Brandon. I will always support Brandon, and it's because we made a conscious choice to choose this community to raise our family. So it's, whatever has happened in the past, we're only going to be able to move forward if we move into the future and we give 110%, you know, to keep that community feel going, and we have to do with our schools and our community, it has to be one team effort. So just wanted to piggyback, you know, we chose this community because it's an awesome community, so.
One last question. I heard the word revenue. Sounds like we rent fields out and things like that. We charge people to use the pool. What is the revenue that's brought in through these different sources each year?
Approximately $50,000 or so, about 50,000.
For all of the different revenue streams?
Yeah, we rent, we have everybody from the courtesy driving school, they rent monthly from us, to volleyball, soccer. We have a pretty good base, yeah.
Thanks.
I agree with the comments that you've made, and my grandchildren go to Brandon School's school of choice. They could have gone to Oxford because they're just on the other side of the street.
Thank you.
And I support all that. I support our community. I'm on the library board. I've been on the township board. But I think that we need to, as taxpayers, know that our money is being spent appropriately and wisely. And to come and ask questions, I don't necessarily think that means that we're against this. We just want to know what it is that we're voting on and why.
That makes total sense, yeah.
Absolutely.
You know,
We're
and
glad
I
that
wish
you're
more
here.
people were here
Sure.
to hear these things. And I do have one more question. On the technology, and you know, it changes so quickly, and I don't keep up with it, obviously. My grandkids show me how to use my iPhone. How are we going to spend the funds on that? I mean, if we spend everything today, you know, 3 years from now, everything's out of date again.
You're still paying for it.
So,
for
Yeah.
years.
I am going to post this other list. This is something where it has the dollars on it. One of the things that it's explained on it is that we're really focusing on replacing technology. A lot of it is, it's part of the plan is that, you know, technology after 5 years it goes out of style. So we're trying to have a plan so that we can have a regular cycle on it. We're trying to be really wise with the technology dollars. So it equates to about, in some of the buildings where they don't need as much, it's about $10,000. In other buildings, it's about $25,000. But a lot of it is replacement of old technology is what we're looking at here. So we are, when we do make the purchase, I think Mr. Janszewski is back here. He's our technology director. He has long-range plans when it comes to technology. And he works with Ms. Meek all the time, and they talk about where we're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And they literally roll over. What do we need? What are we planning for today so that in 5 years we have the resources necessary to replace? So they are doing long-range planning on that.
And we've taken advantage of a federal government program, it's an E-rate program, that's helped us over the last few years. We've put several $100,000 of infrastructure into our buildings through this government program. So we've taken advantage of every option out there to do that.
I just want to make a general comment too. First of all, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Outlaw and all the members of the panel here for taking the time. I would like to encourage you to continue to do this more. I do feel, first of all, I'm a class of 98 Blackhawk, and my parents moved here because of the school district and wanted us to grow up here. I got my own daughter and son-in-law to move here from Sterling Heights because of the community and the schools and the other aspects of Gordonville in general. So we all feel very passionate about it. I've also lived through a downturn in our district, and that is why I am here, because I'm concerned. I want to do what's right to support the schools. I know I also sell real estate, so I know that strong schools influence property values probably more than anything and draw people into a district. It's usually the number one question I get asked when people are, what about this? What about that? What are the schools like? So that's why we're here, and I think we all just want to make sure, and as a community, I think we'll support this bond effort as long as they're given enough accurate and good information so they can feel like they're making an informed decision and doing something that's going to help move the district forward and keep it on track. We've done some tremendous things in the last 5 or 10 years, and we want to see that momentum continue. So that's all. Thank you.
One thing, just as a follow-up on that, when we went into the planning on this, we were very intentional on this. We wanted to, with this bond, really have people looking back 10 years from now saying they spent the money very wisely. We didn't do a lot of flashy things like a lot of these other school districts are doing. We're not doing big bells and whistles. We're doing things like parking lots that have to be replaced and roofs that have to be replaced. HVAC issues that we don't have any choice but to fix. So we were very careful in picking things that would help the next generation. So just want you to know that we're trying to be very responsible in the planning of this. We're not trying to be excessive. We're trying to use this money as wisely as possible so we can help the district for the next decade to 20 years and really set them up for success. So I just wanted to know that that was part of our planning on this.
If I could just make one comment based upon what you were saying before. Each of the projects have an estimate with them, and we mentioned before, it's imperative when we package these projects and put them out for bids. All the projects will be competitively bid. There's not one contractor out there who's waiting for us to pick up the phone and say, come on and do our parking lot. This isn't like, you know, your house situation where the neighbor says, I'll use this guy for shingles, he's great. Okay. So all the projects are competitively bid. They're reviewed by the state of Michigan Building Department for code compliance. But when they go out for bidding, then we have competitive bids from bidders in. And when we receive those in, we interview them, we look at their numbers, we see if they're good, we compare them to market values. And just one thing on market value, in the elections we just had in November, this past November, there's over $2 billion of school work that was approved by voters. So the construction industry, for lack of better terms right now, is booming beyond what our wildest imagination. So some of those numbers may seem a little bit high, but we tried to reflect what the market's going to be when these actually do go out to bid in the next 2-3 years from now. For example, in March, there's another $1.5 billion, I think, that's on the balance for Michigan voters. So if you're a contractor right now, it's a great time for you, but it also kind of hurts us a little bit because contractors are sitting back picking and choosing what projects they want to bid. So we have to be very, material costs are going up, things of that nature. So
Here's a question, since you've got that follow-up on that. Why is it that so many school districts are going out right now?
Quite honestly, the Democratic primary is in March.
But why from a dollar figure? Why are they going out dollar-wise? Why is it that
Historically
they're...
low interest rates.
Yeah.
But it's more than just
Good economy.
It's the economy is booming and they're hitting.
It's the economy and the interest rates is the big thing. I think that
Interest
people
rates
are
are
able to
low.
get more dollars for less. It's just like in our own homes and things like that. It's an interest
Yep.
rate. Is there any other factors that play into it for schools from a
Um,
financing perspective?
No, not really, but again, it's all a reflection on the economy and what it is and how long this will ride like this, nobody knows. So,
And I guess to play off of that, somebody asked earlier about, do we really need some of these things? Well, because of the $2 billion that Brian's talking about, our surrounding districts, they're all putting in tens of millions of dollars into their facilities and upgrading technology and playgrounds, and they kind of look like shiny new facilities. So if you're searching for where to buy a house, send your kids to school, maybe it shouldn't, but those things do matter. They just do. And Harvey Swanson is, as Dr. Outlaw mentioned, it's in need of an upgrade. And I know Lake Orion, Oxford, Clarkston, Holly, they're all passing them. So from that, it's like, well, our kids deserve to have the best playground too, and the best facilities. So.
Do the kids use the playgrounds, or do they all sit there on their iPhones?
Playgrounds
Honestly,
are...
when I see any kids at any family gatherings, they're on their
These are
phones. They
elementary
have phones
schools where
that
you
are
have-
$1,000.
Playgrounds are at elementary and preschool. They're not at middle
Should
school.
playgrounds just be a charging station and a Wi-Fi?
Not at elementary.
Yeah,
Not at elementary. Kids go crazy on those. That's like the highlight of the day is being on the playground.
And they're used after hours as well.
Absolutely.
In the summer.
Yeah, community use them, obviously.
Yeah, I'm glad the technology gentleman is here. As the board, I'm a technology person myself. I've been reading a growing body of evidence around the risks about 5G technology, what they call small cell deployments and things like that. There's actually schools where they removed towers that were nearby because of the effects on children. Large increase in health issues at the elementary school level. Has the board had any presentations on this topic, and are you looking into this?
Thomas?
Ask you a question. There was some information that went around about just cell phones in general and.
No, not current cell phones. I'm talking about the next wave, the 5G.
We haven't had any.
It's a different type of millimeter wave. and-
We'll have to check into that. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for
I'd be
raising
happy
that.
to bring somebody to make a presentation to the board if you'd like to have more information. But the
We'll-
health of our
we'll look
children
into it.
could be at risk with that.
I hate to keep being the one to ask all the questions.
No, it's great, thank you.
Have you, have the students, especially the high school students, been party to this? Have you surveyed them or anything? And the reason I ask that is I remember two of my grandkids are in the STEM program and very active at the high school. And I remember this last year when they were going in after the renovations were done, and they said, oh yeah, they painted the walls and put new floors in, but our labs are terrible. We can hardly sit at the tables and our equipment is bad. So, you know, have we talked to them about what they think they really need? As opposed to, you know, I mean, they're doing this every day. Maybe we should be asking them. And I'm not saying we just do what they ask for, but I mean, I think they should have some input.
So engagement with the students is something that will be part of this initiative. On January 28th at the high school, our folks are doing a piece about census, about voting, and all kinds of things there. They're going to talk a little about how to vote. We're going to be sharing information, particularly with students that are of voting age, that are actually able to vote and be part of the political process. And Ms. Allen's here. She does this every single election, comes out and makes sure that our students know about that. But have they sat down and talked about the
I mean,
specifics,
there's a
things
student
like
council
that?
and stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I would think you would want them in part of
We,
this.
we do have student representatives that are part of our Board of Education meetings, that are part of, you know, that process. And, but no, we've not done large-scale feedback with them on projects. But it's good, it's a good point.
Good suggestion.
So I was going to get a question.
This
Yes,
would be the
Ms.
time.
Meek. I think when they were talking about replacing technology, I feel like there are rules about that you have to pay back those bonds for technology first, like the lifespan of whatever you're purchasing, right? I just don't want people to think we're mortgaging 30 years for laptops today. There's a cycle or something about what you have to pay back
and
first.
we had to go to the state, to the treasury with the application. It was very detailed in order, you know, to get this approved and when things were going to be purchased. And there's a rule for the first 2 years, certain things have to be purchased. Technology is on the front end.
And so I think those
Right,
have
you
to,
gotta-
right, I'm just saying those, you're gonna be able to pay those, you pay those off first so that you're not paying them way after the
Correct.
life of what the technology is, right? There's rules about that, just so
And
people
I'm
know.
not sure if everybody knows, we,
Five-year useful
the first, but I believe that our plan was to do that within the first couple of years. They're needed. I think everybody knows, but we are a one-to-one technology district, so we've made that investment. Started with a grant that Andy Phillips and Harvey won several years ago, which was wonderful, and saw the benefits of it. So when you're a one-to-one district, which is great for the kids, but then we have more devices that need to be replaced. So.
Any other questions, Ms. Thurman?
This is a very comprehensive list, and I was just wondering, is this kind of a wish list? Or, I mean, how concrete is everything that's written down on here? If there's a resident, they said, yeah, I voted for it just because of this specific thing, and it never gets done.
That's a great question. So as Jan mentioned before, we've been to the Department of Treasury in Lansing with a specific list by building that has a dollar amount on it. And that was reviewed and that's approved and that's what you're voting on. So the items that you see are on our list that basically have to be completed. If we get the list completed and we still have funds remaining, then we can look at doing some other things. But no, the items that you see on the list are items that have to be fulfilled by the bond.
And
By
this is
mandate.
audited by our auditors to make sure we're in compliance with the state. There's
Yeah.
a whole process for that. We can't just get the money and start spending it however.
And the ballot initiative only gives us permission to spend the dollars on the things that are in there. We can't decide some project that's not on the list that, we're gonna go build. No, we can't do that. 'Cause it's not approved by the ballot initiative. So it's gonna be what's on that list.
It will be audited also to make sure that the items were completed as the Treasury reviewed it last year.
Any other questions? Yes, Sam?
Timeline for any of these projects? Like, once you start it, you're gonna finish it before you start on the next project?
We will move into, if it's voted on in March and approved, then we'll get some minor projects started by the summer. And we've been talking about those. But the long-range projects will be the next year. That will take longer planning, like to put the age of the air conditioning at the middle school here. It's all R22. We can't replace that anymore, and they're starting to break down. So that's going to take some more planning, which will be a year out from the time that we approve it.
Well, and the contractors are all committed to other school
committed. They're all
districts.
committed.
We would never get a contractor in the
Right.
summer.
At least we wouldn't get one that we would want to pay for.
Yeah, because somebody else wanted
Yeah.
them.
Summer of '21 will be crazy here, but summer of '20, after the passage of the bond, will be just some minor projects that we can get in economically without paying too much for things, because we just have to watch that. Because as Jan mentioned, times have changed now. Their plates are already full for the summer. It used to be right after the holiday season we'd bid out projects. Now we're bidding out projects in September for the following summer, just because how busy they are.
Any other questions?
I do have something I'd like to say. First of all, I am so glad you brought up the pool. I was waiting for somebody because I want that to get out there too. And for the others that were maybe more vocal, we need to hear this. And I'm really encouraging to go to the website and put in questions or review through the Facebook and see what's going on. Because I started seeing people at Beaky's, and there were things that were said about things years ago that we found out were not really true. And we'd rather hear this and say, no, that's not true, or yes, it is true, whatever it is. But I'm appreciative because we all see all your points of view, but when we see, and it's about the fiduciary care of this school district and keeping it strong and futuristic, that's what the board had in voting on these projects and moving forward. And one of the big ones for me too was that pool. My daughter did the swim team for 2 years. I know what it's like to be down in the hole at the Fenton pool and thinking I would never want to come back here for any swimming period. And we go into ours and we have a beautiful facility. The other thing I need to say is, being on the school board since 2012, I meet with other school board members. I've had many come up to me that have hosted band, when we've hosted the band concerts or competitions, correction, or the football playoffs, they rave about our stadium. I know a lot of people say negative about it, but from outside our district, it's beautiful and it's top notch. You guys may not see it sitting here because we see it every day, but the outsiders are now wanting to come in and do their competitions, and we now have graduation out there. I mean, we really come full circle into embracing that, I think, as a school district. But really appreciative of every comment and question. It's more, we had to hear this, we have to hear it. And we really hope that we answer your questions, and if there's something that wasn't between the website or whatever, I think we have one more forum. I mean, we want to make sure things get answered and know why we picked these projects.
And there's an email down here. It's my email. You can reach out to me. Here's my contact information. If you don't want to talk to me, if it's a finance question, I can connect with Ms. Mink. She's the expert in that area. If it's an architecture question, we have our entire panel. It's not just tonight. We're available anytime. If you're talking with your friends and they're like, they have a whole bunch of questions to say, give them a call. Come on in. I'll meet with any. If you want to meet with us, we'll sit down and meet and talk about any of these things. If you want to tour facilities, so we had questions about playgrounds. Come on out. Let's take a walk out. Let's look at the kids play at the playground, and we can see how rusted, the swing sets and those type of things are. Don't hesitate. We're here. Our job is to informed, to answer questions, and then your job is to make a decision as a taxpayer. So we're going to inform as much as possible. Don't hesitate to use us. We're here, okay?
Got another question. When Brandon Township was looking at purchasing the Bell School so they could move into there, so they could have huge offices and then have the building totally remodeled, I went and talked to them and told them my thoughts that they were wasting our taxpayer money. They do not need bigger offices. And their excuse was they needed a bigger parking lot and a bigger building to host the township meetings. And I asked them, well, why not at the high school where you've been doing it? And they said, well, it's really inconvenient for them. They have to pay somebody to lock the doors and all that. And I asked them, who runs this community? You know, you guys need bigger offices so you can have a bigger facility. We already have bigger facilities here. Why does the township have to spend more money? Are you guys completely open to them using this facility, or was that just their line so they could get a bigger office? I don't understand, you know, sometimes when government wants to spend a ton of money for something that's really not necessary. I even threw out the idea, you're surrounded by churches here. They would love to have town meetings in those churches. Why do you need bigger office buildings?
So in defense of the township, for several years, you know, we had Bell Land. We were trying to find a good use for Bell Land.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the township and said, what do you think? They didn't come to us and ask. They did a feasibility study and it didn't fit. And they did their responsible. They were very responsible. They asked great questions. They did everything right. And they said, this isn't a fit for us. So they weren't looking for some lavish office. We went to them and said, what do you think? And they said, no. Great. So we moved on to the next person. So no, township.
They told me a different story. I talked to Kathy Thurman, and she told me exactly that.
I don't
Can't
remember saying those things to
Yes,
you,
we
sir.
talked that you needed the bigger office space and the bigger parking lot for the meetings. And part of it was because the school was not overly cooperative with the town meetings at the high school.
So there are things
We
that.
had never investigated doing our board meetings at the high school. We do have an issue with our parking lot because we're right behind the hub. We pump traffic and parking there, but that was.
But I talked to you specifically, and my thought was the community, the township, the schools should be working together because all of us pay taxes on a combined bill. So if the school and the township was working together, it would benefit all of us.
Well, we have used the PAC for certain public meetings that we had that we knew our boardroom would not accommodate. So the school does.
So
work
is the
with us.
school open with
But
open
our
arms to
regular
have
board-
these town meetings there, like we're having here tonight? This is
I'm
a
sure
school
they would
meeting,
be
but
if
We're
we
partners.
called.
We work together. We work together with Groveland Township. We work together with Brandon Township.
and that's great to hear.
They help
but
us.
that's
We
not what I
help
heard
them.
the one time.
They're great partners with us.
Okay, that's great.
We're on the same team. We're here serving the people of the community in different ways, and
And it should be that way because we're all part of the community. Anything we can do to
Absolutely.
not having to pay double the money on our taxes or on our millages
Parks and
or
Rec
anything
comes
else.
in here and uses our facilities. That's a great, another example.
I mean, it's a
We have
great facility.
and-
It should
And
be
it
used
feels
for
like now,
anyone.
again, we got that question answered and misconception, but we do absolutely have a great relationship and love having the kids in the community. The seniors come in on some events, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts. We have lots of different clubs and groups that come in through here that we
Right,
do
so
with our
for our
facilities.
regular Brandon Township meetings or Groveland, this is
She knows,
a
they know exactly how to
accepted
talk. Yep,
facility.
if they have a
know
large
the-
audience, obviously they'd reach out
Yeah.
and said, can we use the
Yeah.
BAC or can we use this building? So we have that kind of partnership.
Yep.
Any final questions here for us? Anything comes up, that website's a great spot. Reach out to us, any of us. Don't hesitate to ask, but really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for all of your questions, and we are going to have another opportunity on February 18th. So if you come up with more questions or you want to come back, that's another time when we'll all be together. But don't hesitate individually to reach out.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you all. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.